lithium-ion batteries can catch on fire.
Welcome to the Western Broome Environmental Stakeholders Coalition, WBESC's, forum on the proposed Endicott battery recycling facility. It's really an incinerator. The project sponsor is Sungeel MCC Americas, or SMCC, which is a partnership between a South Korean recycling company called Sungeel High Tech and White Plains, New York-based e-waste recycler and broker Metallica Commodities Corporation. This forum was recorded on September 12th, 2019, shot and produced by William Huston. Friends, there's going to be a public informational meeting on this proposed lithium-ion battery, quote-unquote, recycling facility. It's really an incinerator on Wednesday, November 6th, at 6:30 p.m. at the Huron Auditorium. You definitely should show up to this and learn more about this project, and you can talk to the applicant, but this is not a public hearing. There's going to be nobody planned from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation planning on attending. There's going to be no stenographer. There's going to be no way for you to file comments on the record. But if you're interested in a dog and pony show being conducted by the applicant to try to convince us that emitting all these heavy metals into the air and emitting 12 pounds of sulfuric acid into the air every single day and formaldehyde, if that's not going to be a public health crisis, they're going to try to convince us that emitting 12 pounds of sulfuric acid into the air every single day does not create a public health problem, that people won't get sick. But that's wrong. People will get sick. So come in and give the applicant a piece of your mind. Let them know what you think, your concerns about this proposed lithium-ion battery recycling facility. It's really an incinerator. It's a battery incinerator. It's going to be, they want to build it in downtown Endicott, near schools, near baseball fields where kids play, near homes, and near shopping centers. So this is an opportunity for you to learn more about the project. But once again, this is not a public hearing. So, but what we want to do is we really want to ask the DEC for a public hearing. And here's how to do that. The guy that you want to talk to, his name is Joseph Dlugolinski, and he's with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Region 7. So you can give him a call at 607-753-3095. And make sure you do it before Friday, November 8th, because that's scheduled to be the end of the comment period right now. So give Joseph Dlugolinski a call and say, we want a public hearing. There's 3 things to ask for. Number 1, we want a public hearing. Number 2, extend the comment period. We're asking for 90 days so we can have time to look at the permit materials that we only received last week from the applicant, not from the DEC. We received nothing from the DEC, not even paper copies in the library, which is what they normally do. And lastly, we do want the DEC to provide us copies of all the documentation, including the SECRA documents. SEQRA, the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Is this a SECRA Type 1? Is it a SECRA Type 2? Who's the lead agency? So those are the kinds of questions we want to ask, and we have not been provided with this information because the DEC and the New York State government treats Endicott as a third world nation where the people don't matter and they consider it already contaminated, so it's already fucked up. So let's just fuck it up a little bit more. What does it matter? Well, people live here, and our lives matter. We matter, the people who live in Endicott. So call Joseph Dlugolinski, and his number is 607-753-3095. And once again, 3 things. So number 1, we want to extend the comment period by 90 days. Okay? Number 2, we demand that the New York State DEC stop treating Endicott as a third world dumping ground and grant us a public hearing and give us at least 2 weeks prior to the end of the comment period to hold the public hearing so that we can understand what we heard at the public hearing so that people can understand and do more research if they want to. And number 3, the DEC should use the internet, like what we've had for 30 years or more for distributing documents electronically, searchable documents, unlike paper copies. And by the way, paper copies require cutting trees. So if the DEC made electronic copies available, they could go to thousands of people, tens of thousands of people if they wanted to. Basically, unlimited number, doesn't hurt any trees, and it's the modern age. It's, FTP was developed in the later part of the 20th century. We're now in the 21st century. Maybe the New York State DEC should get with the modern times and use the internet to distribute important documents. And don't make it so that people have to use the Freedom of Information law in order to request these documents. Just make them available so that the people can learn about what the DEC is trying to basically shove down our throats, what Governor Cuomo and the New York State government is trying to shove down our throats, and that's sulfuric acid and formaldehyde and a whole bunch of heavy metals that are going to be in the air unless we can stop this thing. So that's it. Ask for these 3 things, and there's a couple ways you can reach Mr. Joseph Dlugolenski. There's the spelling of his name, but you can just call him Joseph. And here's his email address, dep.r7@dec.ny.gov. I don't know why this is DEP, but it is. dep.r7@dec.ny.gov. This is his email address. Or, once again, you can give him a call, 607-753-3095. And once again, there's 3 things we want to ask for. Number 1, extend the comment period. Number 2, we demand that the DEC stop treating Endicott like a third world dumping ground. We're not your dumping ground. People live here, and our lives matter, okay? And also the DEC should be open and transparent and make electronic copies available on the internet, like the modern age, like companies have been doing for 30 years or more. Let's use the internet, distribute the electronic copies of all of the relevant documents. Don't make people have to make a FOIL request for them. Make them available to everybody so you can show some transparency about what's happening here. I also want to tell you that there is I'm working on another presentation. It's about 20 minutes long. Now, this presentation that you're watching right now is going to be the entire first public informational session that was given to a small group of us at Western Broome Environmental Stakeholder Coalitions. That's what you're watching now. What I would suggest is go watch my shorter video first. It's a 20-minute video. Go to the Bill Houston podcast channel on YouTube and have a watch of the shorter opinion piece, the 20-minute analysis. This is my analysis telling you what's going on here. This is the avenue. That's downtown Endicott. Here is the CVS, and the price chopper is over here. This is the price chopper right here. And then this is the ball fields right here. You can see the ball fields. And then the treater tower is right here, building 259. This is where they want to place the incinerator. And there was an existing incinerator there. Hasn't been used for many years, according to my understanding. This is Roble Avenue right here. This is Roble. And over here is... this is Franklin Street, looking down. That's the waste treatment plant. This is the price chopper. So, and this is Oak Hill Avenue right here. This one going up. So if we go this way, that's Oak Hill Avenue. So Rossi's Pizza is kind of up the hill. Like Rossi's is up there. If you're familiar with that. Once again, want to encourage everyone to come to this public informational session. Now, what you might want to do is, if you're coming off the highway right here, if you're coming off of, here's the Susquehanna River, this is I-86 or old New York Route 17. So come off there, and you're going to come to the very first red light, and the very first red light is at Monroe and McKinley. There's a big church there on the corner, and they have a lot of events there. You've probably been there. So the first thing you can do is you can make a right turn here, and then you can go park in this parking lot, like up here somewhere, because that is Heritage Circle right here. This is Heritage Circle. This is North Street up here. So park in any of these parking spots up here, and then walk toward the circle. And then this right here is the entrance. There's like some double glass doors. Like walk in that way. Let me bring it around. This is what they call Heritage Circle right here. And then this is the entrance. And what you do is you go in through these doors, you kind of go this way, and then you have to go down the stairs. And there's going to be a security person at this desk down here. It's just down. And then this is the McKinley up here. This is where a lot of events are held. So I'm not sure exactly where the auditorium is, but it's downstairs. Just go downstairs by the security building, and somebody should be down there to direct you to where the auditorium is going to be. If you don't want to go in the back way, the other thing you can do is go up to the second red light. The second red light is McKinley. This is McKinley going to the north up this way, right? So come up off the highway right here, and then at this red light, make a right. Go this way. This is Heritage Circle. This is the other way to get into Heritage Circle. Right? So you can kind of come in, drive around the circle, and once again, park in any of these parking spots over in here, and then walk toward the circle, and then kind of go in through these doors right here. Go in through these doors underneath this thing here, and go downstairs, and that's where the meeting is going to be held. Now we're going to show you, this is the first of the two public informational sessions. This was actually recorded back in September. Once again, go listen to my short 20-minute commentary before you listen to this one. This is for more details. Go listen to the first 20-minute commentary, and then come back and watch this. And don't forget to call the DEC or write them an email and say we want a public hearing in Endicott, and extend the comment period. And by the way, provide the documents online, join the modern times, get out of the Stone Age, DEC, and distribute the documents. Don't make the people actually have to foil these documents. Just make them available. Be open and transparent so that people can find out and read for themselves what's being planned for Endicott. Oh, by the way, I work in the public interest. I work a part-time job. I am very low income. I have about $500 worth of bills that are unpaid every single month. So I rely upon donations and grants. There's a famous YouTuber that lives in Oneonta. He typically raises $5,000 a month. I'm only looking for $500 a month. I live very modestly. So if you can help me out, just you can visit Bill Houston's fracking resume, and the information there is at the bottom. Or if you want to go directly to my PayPal, go to tinyurl.com/donate to Bill Houston. That's tinyurl.com/donate to Bill Houston. If you enjoy my public service work, and I do work in the public interest, I do this work full time. I really could use your support right now. I need $500 worth of sustaining donations every single month to survive in a very basic way, very modest way, and that's no money for my program costs. So anything additional on top of $500 a month, I can do more of this investigative work that I do and produce these videos. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of my donors who support my work, like these people who through your generous contributions, help me to survive and to keep on doing this work. So thank you very much. You all are exceptional people. Okay, here is the presentation from September, Bill Houston Podcast. We'll see you soon.
Yep. So should we get started?
Well, how about if you, I don't know what format you wanted to use, but I was thinking maybe you could give us a quick summary, 5 minutes, and then get into other stuff.
Sure. What we want to do is kind of introduce ourselves first, tell you who we are, what we do, and then move into what we're thinking of doing in Endicott. And then and then we can have a discussion on just open forum, like whatever
Sounds good.
concerns you guys have and so forth.
Sounds good.
Okay. So the company that we represent originally is called a company called Metallica. We've been around for about since 2001. Our main business is recycling. We have a trading business that we trade recycled materials. We have a facility in France that recycles printed circuit boards and electronic scrap. And now we are doing a JV with a Korean company to recycle lithium-ion batteries. The world is heading towards electric vehicles. Everybody has a cell phone and a laptop, but to recycle these batteries is something that is still a struggle for many countries. The United States does not have a complete recycling facility. So we want to help move in that direction. The EVs can't take off unless you know what to do with their batteries. Unfortunately, some of the batteries are landing up in landfills, which is not a good place for them to be. And given that the batteries contain nickel and cobalt, it's much better if we can extract those metals and reuse them in batteries in the future.
So right now, sorry, Dan, right now, when we throw away or we put the batteries in somebody's battery recycling place,
right,
they could just be landfilled.
Well, yeah, right now in the United States, 3% of lithium-ion batteries are recycled. In Europe, that number is 47%.
But recycled is it's recollected. There aren't processes in the United States who take in these batteries and try to recover the metal contents of the batteries. So a lot of recyclers in the United States, whether it be paper, whether it be wood, they collect things and they sort things and they ship them someplace else for processing, for recovery of the metal value or the paper value in the case of paper. In terms of, when we talk of recycling and the things that we do, we're taking metal-containing things that ends up in landfills or ends up in stockpiles around the world, and we work on recovering the metal contents. And when we say recycling, we're talking about actual recovery.
So the 3% of the batteries that are so-called recycled aren't recovered. You don't recover the metal that you, right?
Yeah, it may not be, right?
In the
United States.
In the United States, we don't know where they go.
Okay.
Yeah, the batteries that do land up for recycling from the United States used to go mostly to Belgium or Korea and to some degree to Canada. They're the three facilities that recycle batteries. So our goal was to build a plant in the United States that would facilitate the more development of EVs, where there's a solution in the United States to recycle these batteries and recover these elements that are actually critical in building new batteries. And so we have a joint venture with a Korean company that is the industry leader in this, a company called Sungeel.
South Korean, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Sungeel.
So we partnered up with them. They have a proven technology. If you Google lithium-ion battery recycling in the United States, you get maybe 100 people popping up on your things. Most of those are experimental or pilot plants or people just trying to come up with some sort of solution. The way we're different is this is a tried and true process that has been working in Korea.
Okay.
And as nations go, Korea is probably the world leader in lithium-ion battery recycling and production because of Samsung and LG. So they were the people that we thought we should partner with.
Okay.
Our company is based out of White Plains, New York. So we're just down the road, well, 3 hours down the road. And we have about 25 people working in the United States and about 100 people worldwide.
What do the folks do that are working in the U.S.?
Mostly it's all trading in the U.S. In France, it's recycling. And then we have agents around the world that look for materials that can be recycled instead of being dumped or just left stockpiles of material in places.
It's good that you can make a business out of it.
Yeah. We actually have worked with various trusts that work with the EPA to clean up a couple of sites in the U.S. There's a company called the Environmental Trust Group, and they work with the EPA on Superfund sites. So we go check them out to see if there's any way we can recover some metal value that can help pay for the cleanup. So that's basically us in a nutshell, in a quick summary. So recycling's been in our DNA from day one, and that's our growth pattern too. So the next thing is to go into battery recycling.
Just excuse me for a second. This is Mark Bacon.
Hi, Mark.
And this is Jim Little, and they're both in our group.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Glendon Archer, Danish Mayer.
Dale Vollmer.
And why do let's talk about what we want to do and why we want to do it in Endicott. We're actually looking at building our facility in Pennsylvania initially. New York State came to us and said, listen, we're trying to build this battery recycling hub in the Binghamton, Endicott area. We have I-3 there. We have Binghamton University's Battery Recycling and Research Center. This would be a great home for you guys. And we considered it, we're from New York, so we figured, okay, why not New York State? We started looking at places to do it into New York, and Binghamton was basically, Endicott was the number one choice just because of the state wanting to build this recycling footprint, especially in the battery arena. So we looked around the Huron campus and we identified some sites that we think would be suitable. And we came up with the two sites. Now let me explain to you why there's two sites. The DEC/EPA regulations, they just came out with some new battery regulations where you cannot store batteries in the same facility that you process them. So they want us to have two separate facilities, one to collect the batteries and one to process it, which is a little bit more expensive for us to do because that was not in our original game plan, but I guess rules are rules for whatever reasons.
Is that a fire hazard?
I'm not sure why, because we asked them why, and they couldn't explain to us why. They said, well, that's just the rules and our job is to enforce them.
Imagine the lithium, probably.
Yeah, so one of the reasons is, like you mentioned, that lithium-ion batteries can catch on fire if they're not handled properly. And maybe that's the reason why they want the facilities separated. So, but a lot of the times when lithium-ion batteries catch on fire, it's because you've got inexperienced people that are dealing with them and they're not handling them in the way that they should be handled. Because handling them in the correct way gets a little expensive as far as the right way to package them, the right way to handle them.
Are you talking like on airlines and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like
And so you have, say you have a spare battery.
right.
You have to take care of how you do that?
Yeah, so there's special ways to transport the batteries. When they're stored, they should be stored in a discharged state. So we would have dischargers. When batteries come in, the first thing is you discharge them and then you store them, right? That's especially for the EV batteries, which are the large batteries. The smaller batteries, like the laptop and the cell phone batteries. The protocol is, I can give you some of the basic protocols, is you store them in steel drums and you fill it to the top so that there's no friction in the drums. And so if there's any issue, it's contained in that one drum. So the issues are you have to try to prevent the fires, and when they do happen, you have to have a professional protocol on how to deal with them. So I think those are the two, A, do all the measures to prevent them, B, if they do happen, deal with them so that they're a non-event. Most of the fires, I know they get a lot of bad press, are usually pretty small and pretty contained.
Is this a closed loop system, or will you have some waste?
So it's pretty much closed loop. We have some air emissions, but as far as the limits of what is permissible, they're at the bottom end. So with the DEC, we never had any issues when we've been discussing with them on us getting close to any of the limits. So I think you guys will be able to see all that once you get all the permitting information, that the emission levels are pretty low. The plastics we're going to remove, and the plastic casings are all going to go to a plastic recycling company. There's one company in Bow Metal in upstate New York, but we may be shipping to some other places also.
About the air emissions, does it require a Title V?
No, it's a state facility permit. It's actually eligible for registration, but state asked us to fill out a state facility permit application.
What does that mean, registration?
Registration is like the lowest level of permit you can get from the state.
Okay. So the Title V, it's a little confusing.
Title V is the highest level. The state facility is kind of in between.
I got it, but the Title V permits are administered by the state. I realize it's a federal thing, but.
Will we be processing car batteries too?
Yes, the EV batteries.
Because I was
Not lead acid batteries, just the EV batteries.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading where you can reuse those sometimes for other repurposes. Are you going to take that into consideration if you get one that's, say, it's still got 70% use left on it? Are you just going to recycle it or try to repurpose it?
No, what we do is batteries eventually have to be recycled, even if you repurpose it. Each time you repurpose the battery, its effectiveness or its utility just diminishes. Mm-hmm. So we've even had discussions with the Department of Energy, because we've been meeting with them a lot, being one of the first people to do this in the United States. And they said, yes, they would like to see reuse, but they also realize that each time you reuse it, the effectiveness of the battery diminishes greatly. And you have to use it for a lower energy threshold event every time you do it.
We will not be repurposing batteries.
So we're not going down that road. They have to be eventually recycled, so we're just going to recycle them, pull out the cobalt and nickel, and get that cobalt and nickel back into brand new batteries.
The batteries contain cobalt, nickel, manganese, copper, aluminum, in some cases iron, and carbon.
What about lead?
These are not lead acid batteries. There's no lead in these batteries.
I thought lithium batteries had a little bit of lead.
It depends on the type of battery. So the batteries that you find in EVs, right, and in cell phones and power tools, there's no lead. Some of them would have a carbon anode, or they will have a lithium carbonate anode, right? And so lithium carbonate and with a cobalt complex, right? So the idea is to recover those elements, including the manganese, including the copper, including the aluminum. Right?
But just to clarify something for you, right? When people say lithium-ion batteries, they assume that it's a wide spectrum of different kinds of batteries. The only lithium-ion batteries that we'd be recycling would be nickel or cobalt-based batteries. Mm-hmm. Just because those have enough value in it to make recycling economical. There's some other formulations of lithium-ion batteries where it's just too expensive to recycle them.
If I give you a pound of batteries that are nickel cobalt based, how much of that is nickel and cobalt?
Well, they have different formulations, right? Mm-hmm. For example, you take a Tesla battery, right? A Tesla battery has a very high nickel content, like 20% and so forth, and a very low cobalt content. You take a cell phone or a laptop, They have a much higher cobalt content, but a very small nickel content. So each producer, whether it's Panasonic or LG, has their own different compositions of those elements in a battery.
And there's enough of either one of those to make it worthwhile to extract it.
Yeah, there's the issue is going to be in the United States that we're going to have to set up, in general, the United States has to get these recycling plants up and running, because when the first wave of Tesla batteries hits, there's no solution for them.
So I have a question. So it's not just a matter of, those elements that you're retrieving are
Right.
not, as the battery degrades,
Right.
not only the electrical properties change, but my understanding is the chemistry changes too. So it's not, it's a chemical process you're going to be doing to extract those materials apart from inside the battery, right? There's chemistry involved.
So let me, can I answer that?
Yep.
Because you're getting very technical, so I want to jump in there. Yes, there's chemistry involved. So when we say recovery of metals, as opposed to a scrap dealer that just separates metals physically, there is going to be chemical separation. But what we're doing here, we take all of those chemicals, because like you said, there's chemical changes, oxidation and passivation that takes place over time. And these things, they may start as a lithium carbonate, that compound structure may change. But at the end of the day, we're taking all those elements and putting them into something called a black powder. We're separating the metallics, the plastics, and all the chemicals, all the compounds become a black powder. That powder contains all the elements. There's a second stage, which could be done here later on, or goes to our partner company in Korea where they do solvent extraction. And there, in solvent extraction, regardless of the compound, you can set up formulations that extract the compounds and then reprecipitate them as salts or as metal cathodes. And that's the end result.
What was the second thing? Metal what?
Cathodes. So a
cathode.
right.
Yeah.
Right, so.
That, where you're pointing to, not the, I think it's the storage, I have to look at your map again, but this lower facility here, the collection center, okay?
Right.
The site where that is, that whole site right there is a waste treatment facility that was built by IBM back in the 1980s, I believe. And so my question is, do you have the, oh shoot.
Well, they're closing down too.
That's the
so-
wastewater, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, do you have any plans on using that facility for the processing of liquid or other waste?
Yeah, because we heard they're closing down. How will that impact you guys?
So we have very small wastewater. I think we've got 2,500 gallons every quarter.
Yeah.
Which is probably less than 1% or even probably less than 0.1% of the capacity of this thing.
Will there be heavy metals in it?
There should not be any heavy metals in it. I think it's basically just from our scrubbers. We can just look at sending that. We were going to use I3 to use it, but from what we hear also, they'll be shutting down. But we could just truck that to a facility, a municipal facility or another facility that can handle it.
Yeah, because our local waste facility, the sewer plant doesn't separate out heavy metals, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
That was
So do you have any, the only plan is to truck it off site? You're not going to have any, there's no plans to use to dump into either the storm sewers or into the municipal sewage treatment plant?
No process waste.
No process.
Just, bathrooms and stuff, but.
Yeah.
So to take a step back, you get the batteries in and say it has a covering, metal covering on it.
Well, let me run through the whole process for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, truck comes in, battery gets unloaded. It's physically checked to make sure everything's intact. The packing is proper. If the packing's not proper, put it back, send it back out again. If it's okay to unload, you unload it. The very first thing happens is it gets discharged. We hook it up to a machine. I'm talking about an EV example, which is the biggest batteries we'll be handling. So the first thing is you hook it up and you discharge it.
Can you save some of that energy?
The goal is to save that energy and use it back in our process. The point is, I mean, we're a recycling company, so the whole point is that whatever we can recycle or use. We are also eventually trying to work with some people to set up solar panels so we can use the solar energy also in our process. So battery comes in as discharged. That energy is stored in our own batteries, so we can power the plant and so forth. When it's stored, when it's time for it to ship to this facility, it has to go through a dismantling process, right? So when it's discharged, it has no power left in it. It gets shipped to the recycling facility. Again, it's documented when this leaves, it's documented when this arrives. When it arrives, the first thing is the mechanical separation, where you have a bunch of workers that unscrew the whole thing and pull it apart. They put all the metal pieces in different containers just to get to the battery pouch, which is the battery cell. The different containers, that scrap that goes out to the scrap dealers, the plastic casings go out to a plastic recycler or a plastic pelletizer who pelletizes and you can sell the plastic if it's the same kind of plastic. The pouch goes into a heating kiln that heats the pouch up, making it brittle and easy to crush. It comes out of that process, it goes to a crusher. From the
Crushed, heated.
Cool, that's cool.
Cold, yeah. So when the batteries are brittle, they're easier to crush. So they get crushed with a crusher, and then it goes through various separation processes, mechanical separation processes. You have an eddy current separator, which because of different current densities pulls out all the aluminum. All that stuff goes into an aluminum bin to go to an aluminum company we get paid for that. Then you get a magnetic separator that pulls out the iron. And then it goes through various different crushing and milling processes to make it very fine, where you can separate out some of the metals. So at the end of that, you have basically black powder left. This black powder is a raw material for a battery recycler. Like Glennon was saying, there's two stages. So this black powder can be either dealt with in two ways. You can put it in a furnace and you can, using the pyro process, extract the metals, or you can put it in a hydro process through leaching, which is solvent extraction, and you can extract the metals. So what we're going to be doing here is making that black powder.
At the beginning.
At the beginning. And the black powder is, and that black powder will be shipped to Korea initially. And they will do the solvent extraction over there.
And you have plans of doing the solvent extraction later on?
Look,
It all
black powder-
depends on many factors, right? It also depends on the economics. Does it work? As far as the economics of it, the process we know works. The economics works. We have to see, the crazy amount of demand. There's a lot of things. So if we do decide to do it, it's going to be not tomorrow, in the future. I mean, ultimately, we'd like to get to the point where we are making the battery salts that you sell to a battery manufacturer that makes a battery. And that is really, truly closed-loop recycling. I mean, a lot of people throw that word around, like, the big companies, they maybe do that for 1%, and then they say, oh, we've got closed-loop recycling. We want to get to the point where we can actually do that.
So isn't the trend, though, to build these facilities at the battery manufacturing plant?
The trend is for a reason. I'm doing your research, very impressive. So the trend for that is because initially the industry has been running on what we call battery scrap. Basically, in the manufacturing of batteries, the there's a lot of problems in manufacturing batteries. It's not easy. So if they do one that the chemistry is a little off, they got to get rid of it. So traditionally, all the recycling facilities, because that's where the volume is, have been building the battery recycling plants next to the battery manufacturing plants. However, there's a point in the industry where the consumer batteries are getting to a point where here's your battery manufacturing. Tesla's going to start kicking in with some of their first generation batteries. It's going to be a point where you have to remove the batteries from where they're being recycling, from where they're being manufactured to where the consumers are. If you pull up a map of where Binghamton is you've got New York City, you've got Boston, you've got Chicago, and you've got Toronto. And these are the high population centers. These are where people drive EVs.
But in addition to what Danish is saying, that's where EVs, your cell phone batteries, most of them are made in China or someplace. In the United States, to recycle cell phone batteries, there aren't a cell phone battery factory, you can say, build a plant there. End users are scattered, and there are all these collection systems that you choose, Best Buy and so forth. The people that take those Best Buy batteries today, they generally pack them in a container and ship them to Korea or to China or someplace like that. That is being prohibited as we move forward because of the fires and the explosion of batteries. So a facility like this, although a lot of it is going to be catered to the EV batteries coming from the manufacturers of batteries, your consumer batteries, they got to be collected, they got to be processed. And so there's going to be need for several facilities like this in the United States at several critical places to take those batteries in and do the process that we think is the best process.
A lot are going right to the landfills now. That's pretty
Exactly.
scary.
That's what Danish was saying originally. 3% gets collected. The rest is in landfill.
Wow. As environmentalists, I think we agree with everything what you're doing there. So
I think there's a movement, and I think it's a very good movement where, because we deal in e-scrap also, right, is that governments used to take their stuff and let it go anywhere, right? But as producers of technology and stuff, we have to be responsible to take care of our own recycling, and in a very responsible, environmentally friendly way. Because when this stuff goes overseas, you don't know what happens to this stuff.
right.
You don't know where it goes. It becomes a game of economics for some people where, oh hell, recycling is too expensive, let's just, dump it here. Because in some cases they get paid to take it, right? So we want to start charting the way that yes, we can recycle batteries. And I don't know if you remember earlier I told you that we only go for the cobalt and the nickel batteries. That's because we feel that those are the two batteries that have enough value in them that we can recycle them in a responsible, economically beneficial way, that we can take all the necessary precautions. I mean, an ideal thing for business would be, oh, we'll take all your batteries. But we can't do the other batteries in an economical way where we have to spend a lot of money on environmental constraints of what we can do and how we can do responsibly. We cannot do those batteries responsibly.
In the future, when it gets more efficient and technology improves.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
But there will never be a lead acid battery. There's enough lead acid battery recycling capacity in the United States. We're not trying to get into that space.
I was watching a documentary where they're taking lead acid batteries and shipping it to Africa, and they put it in landfills, and kids would get in there and be trying to recycle it and get poisoned.
There's a place in Ghana
Yeah.
where all the computers in the United States used to go to the waste computers and the waste batteries. And it's like hell on wheels. You go there and kids trying to take batteries apart because they know that this part contains copper, and so they accumulate it to get a ton of copper, and batteries explode and kids lose fingers. It's difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to interrupt the presentation, but I just want to, so I hear about future plans and what your plans are right now. I just think it's really coincidental that you're locating your facility So there's two things. I'm going to be super careful of your camera this time. So this facility across the street has an incinerator in it. Do you have any plans on using that incinerator?
Which facility?
The SMCC, the recycling facility.
No, this one, yeah.
That is
Yeah,
the recycling facility. It's being gutted, basically.
We're cleaning out the whole place, which
Okay.
actually is a lot more expensive than we thought, because that thing is built like Fort Knox.
Is that the old treater tower?
The treater tower, right.
Yeah.
So you don't have any plans on doing any burning or incineration at that place? So,
So to just go add another, so your air discharge is,
We are heating up the batteries.
We have a
We
kiln.
have a kiln just to
We're
heat up the
roasting-
batteries,
we're roasting.
to roast the batteries. to
and
make
is there,
them
are there
easy
any,
to
are there any,
shred.
is there any discharge?
Yes,
Metals
there's
from that?
discharge.
There's, the combustion gases from burning the natural gas and anything that combusts in the battery itself, which is all collected. There's quite an
Just in the
extensive
summertime?
treatment train.
It goes through gas. It goes through gas.
Filters to reduce?
Yes,
It
so.
goes through a gas treatment
Let's
process.
talk a little bit about the controls,
You
right?
guys are going in the treater towers and what, building 38, right?
I don't know, is that building
That we're building
38?
here.
that's not 38.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's inside the waste treatment facility, Mark.
This right here. This is our,
Well, he's asking about this one, Donish, I don't know.
Right.
I don't recognize that.
no, that's just a shed they have there. I don't think anything
Yeah.
substantial.
They used
is
to use
there.
that for
That's
chemical
where
storage.
That's where you're gonna store the batteries.
Right, and this is where they're gonna be processed.
Right, over there, okay.
But, so, to finish my question before you go on, I just wanted to, so, what I'm hearing you say, I just want to hear you say very clearly that you have no plans on using that liquid chemical waste treatment facility that you happen to be locating inside of.
That's not a liquid.
But
He's
right
talking about
here, this
The water
area
treat- The water
here,
We're
treatment
not
plant.
inside
Water
this.
treatment
We're
plant.
not in here. We're not in here.
well, but you're inside the fence line.
Yeah, you are inside what we could, that's the whole, we consider that all part of the
Oh,
waste
we're
treatment
not,
facility.
no,
just
we're
the
not
storage
using
unit.
that.
Right.
Yeah. Is that-
Metal building.
Yeah, this metal building is just a
Storage.
shed that's
You
just
have,
fenced
you have
off.
no plans on using any of that waste treatment plant?
No,
Okay.
because we would even use less than 1/10 of 1%.
Well, I realize that, but you're talking about all these future plans about taking new kinds of batteries that are coming from Tesla and,
I don't know.
Because we are roasting and crushing.
right.
We're roasting and crushing. This is not a process that generates water, water.
Well, like Mark said, that, in the future,
You said
the solvent extraction.
That's a different story.
And that
Once a
is probably not even gonna
solvent
be
extraction plant is
here.
designed, wherever we design that plant to be.
Yeah, that plant, basically our goal is to build, the first one is gonna be in Endicott, and then we will probably have about 5 of these spread out around the United States.
But the solvent one, you won't just.
The solvent one,
Right.
we will make a decision on
Where it goes.
where it goes. It probably would make more sense to be close to a huge source, like, I don't want to name names of other companies, but a big EV manufacturer, or,
Or near a chemical waste treatment plant that's just sitting there idle.
If it's working.
yeah, well, this one apparently has no one that's going to be running it, and we're not in the business of running waste plants.
Well, that's been a big problem with that.
Is there mercury in the roasting process? Is there mercury in the batteries?
No.
No, okay.
Part of our mission statement is just to then address emissions from the former IBM and EIT, and we also look at the safety for workers. Can you, when you're finished there, can you address that? Are there any hazard risk for the workers? Do they wear respirators? Are there ventilation?
Yes, so yeah, there's ventilation at all different stages. They all do wear safety equipment. They will all go through a training procedure on what's the correct way to do it and not. The operation, we're basically taking an operation that's a first-in-class operation and trying to bring it here to the United States with all the bells and whistles that go with it. As you will see when you start seeing some of the documentation that comes out, is that there are a lot of checks and balances in place. The reason that we wanted to meet with you guys first is we're very aware of the history of this place and what has happened in Endicott with IBM and the whole history of it.
Many of us work there, so.
Yeah.
Well, you guys wouldn't want to either if they're still running that waste sewage place, okay?
Okay.
Why is that?
Oh, it stinks.
Smells with the ventilation.
If you go over there, I'm sure there's still running a small tank of it, you know, that you might get a good whiff.
Yeah, so we are going to have all those safety things in there. The reason why we have to even be even better than the best is because we're the first ones in the U.S. doing this. And
What possible hazards are there?
the one hazard that is the fire hazard, which we discussed a little bit. That I think is probably the biggest problem, and that is mostly being aware of how you treat the material, and if a fire does happen, what's the protocol to minimize it and make it a non-event. And we have a protocol and procedure to do that.
When's the most chance of having a fire? When during the storage shed?
That's a good question.
Before they're discharged.
Yeah.
So they'd be in the storage shed. That's kind of close to, you know, where the pipes and all the stuff from the powerhouse, you know. I was just wondering about that.
There's a NICEAG substation right next to you.
Yeah, right down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, who
Sure,
on
that's
campus
the
pointed that
idea.
out to us. And we actually had a discussion with them about the fire hazard, and we kind of gave them a rundown of all the different precautions we would take. And that's the very first thing they pointed out to us. They said, you know, we actually haven't leased this building yet. This is for consideration. They said, yeah, we could lease this building to you because if you're doing it the correct way, then we don't have anything to worry about.
So, I'm sorry.
Synergies with CV4 and the battery plant there?
No, the battery plant there, you have I3 who are leaving, I
Right.
understand, right?
Right.
And then you have British
BAE.
BAE.
Right.
BAE makes a different kind of lithium-ion battery.
Okay.
It doesn't contain cobalt or a nickel. So there's not much synergies there.
How about Imperium?
Imperium, to be honest, nobody knows what Imperium does. We don't even know what they do.
Okay.
But they, because we reached out to them, we said, hey, we're going to be your neighbors.
Yeah,
Can we work
exactly.
together? You know, we want to partner up with Binghamton University and really make this a center for recycling and doing things the right way. And they were just very closed as far as, they're like, would you like to sign an NDA to have a discussion with us? We're like, I just want to talk to you guys. So.
Okay.
That's the only part there that's still going to be remaining from the I3, you know, because it's with the...
Does I3 lease this from Huron, or do they own it?
It's a buddy's, well, before it was two people, but now it's just a couple of people. Matthews, who owns the company, it went bankrupt, and it's been a big, which hands feeding what, you know?
When IBM left, they took the assets of this place and divided it basically between two family-owned businesses. One was the real estate agent, and the other one kept the remainder of the IBM board building activity. That was EIT, which then went bankrupt and became I3.
Okay.
So
And
basically, yes.
so Huron
It's-
runs that plant.
Right.
But
How many people,
I don't think that's right, Frank.
I think I3 is
I'm
the
pretty sure it's
permit.
I3.
I3 is the permittee.
Well, they both got permits.
They both have speedies permits, that's right.
But that the people you're talking about, that was some kind of deal with the university and I3, and that's the only part that he's leaving here. All the rest he moved to. They call it I3.
I think you're right, Bill. Excuse me.
what was I3's relationship with the community like?
A bit contentious.
Well, what it was, okay, it was IBMers, okay, that when they got laid off, when IBM failed because of the contamination, these guys came in and were supposed to save 1,600 jobs, and that went on for 10 years, and then they went bankrupt, okay, and then the two partners there, they got falling out, after the bankruptcy. And the one, because you got one that's still a landlord and the other one's moving all his crap out.
Okay.
But as far as the workers, everybody was an IBM. Okay, the ones that were still there were IBM people. And a lot of people right now are still IBM people.
How many people will lose their job as a result of I-3 leaving?
Well, maybe they say 200, but I know a lot of them that are still here, okay, that they've been offered jobs at the other place. But the thing is when IBM left, these guys, most of the people had 20 years when I-3 left. They've been there for 40-some years, There's no retirement or anything because they kind of got screwed.
Okay.
Did you want to conduct an individual interview before you leave? Or?
That's what I was hoping to do.
Sure.
Can I grab you quick? I know you guys are like in the middle of a discussion, but it'll only take a minute. No problem.
And just as an example of what I-3 was like, we for a long time wanted to get in there and see what the wastewater treatment plant was. And it wasn't until they were going to renew their Speedies permit that they allowed us in and
Well, they
gave us a tour and all.
They renew it, but they wanted the leachate. That was a
Right.
pilot program,
Right,
and they wanted to up the volume.
They wanted to take the leachate from landfills.
Come to find out, it was a pretty good system.
Yeah, it seemed to work. So what is your schedule? Oh, the other thing I wanted to ask first, will there be state funding available to you?
There's state incentives, but the state would not fund our project. We are raising monies on our own. As Danish mentioned, we are a pretty substantial commodities trading company. We are trading recyclable things around the world. And so we intend to build on our own, but there are going to be state incentives for building it.
Like a pilot?
No, so this is going to be our pilot. This plant at the beginning is only 5,000 tons, right?
Payment in lieu of taxes?
There may be some tax incentives.
Okay.
Right.
Getting back to the workers' safety, IBM used to have what they call a crash and bash, and they'd recycle electronic products, computers and stuff, and you'd walk through the hallways and they'd be in there with a hammer, just hammering apart. There'd be dust going everywhere. There's a lot of complaints from the workers about some of the effects of that. And I'm just wondering, are your workers going to be exposed to any dust?
No, look, I think the world has changed since crash and bash. So we operate, there's a lot of crashing and bashing in the electronic scrap recycling industry. And I'm saying that to say we operate a facility in northern France and building one in the United States in the coming years where we process 30,000 tons of e-scrap circuit boards. And one of our requirements is you cannot bring a computer to us because we don't have the guys who are bashing it and opening it. We bring in circuit boards, and we have a pretty civilized process where they come in, they get shredded into a shredder down to -3/8.
With nitrogen and stuff, right?
With the circuit boards, you don't need to.
Oh, okay.
It's not
Just
necessary.
the batteries use the nitrogen?
The batteries, in some cases, they use nitrogen only for storage. If a battery is charged, some places, as a safety precaution, there's a nitrogen blanket that's put over them. But because we are discharging the batteries immediately, we don't think there'll be need for nitrogen blankets and nitrogen tanks, right? But in terms of dismantling, the only batteries in this system that would need dismantling would be the batteries coming from EVs, because basically they're a bunch of cells stacked in various architectures. And workers with tools will dismantle the architectures to get to the pouches. And it's the pouches that then enter into the process.
So are there any exposures where they might get some toxic metal, heavy metal dust?
No, because workers are required to use respirators.
What, do you use a paper mask or?
No, we use rail, charcoal fill, respirators.
Oh, good.
They're real thing.
When I worked at IBM, I tried to let them wear one of those. I was working with methyl chloride and copper chloride and all these chemicals, and they said no.
No, look, we come from the metal industry. Right now we're traders, we're building plants, but I'm a process engineer that worked in metal production throughout the United States and other parts of the world. So we understand how workers around heavy metals, what they should wear, how they should wear it, and in case of where there's exposure to lead testing. So we're very familiar with those things, and we employ some of those regimes in our French operation. And so we think best practices are the things that we know very well.
Yeah, so just in my hobbies and things, I wear a carbon-based respirator, and I have the rubber, and it seals very well.
I have one in my garage.
I use it for everything.
Right.
So how many, can you summarize the structure, the business structure? Because I've heard there's Imperium and there's your Metallica. How many different companies?
I can only speak about us, right? Danish Mir, who's doing the interview, Danish is the president of this SMC Recycling. Our mother company is called Metallica Commodities Corp, of which I'm the president and CEO, and Danish is the COO.
So this SMCC is a wholly owned subsidiary?
It's a joint venture.
It's a joint venture between Metallica Commodities Corp and Sungeel of Korea.
Okay.
Danish Mir is the president of this company.
Got it.
Right? This company reports to the parent company, of which I'm the president and CEO.
Got it.
The company in France, which is our circuit board recycling company today, that is a wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company. Danish runs that company. I'm the chairman of that company. Right.
And the Korean company is?
Korean company is owned by the Koreans.
What's it called?
It's called Sungeel, S-U-N-G-E-E-L.
Sungeel. That's the other one.
And that's a wholly, that's their company. They're doing things with Samsung, but they're partnering with us. Right.
So I understand. Go ahead.
What is your, interrupting if this gets off track, what is your schedule and what permits do you need to get?
I think Bill can answer that next.
Yes, we just actually today submitted some final revisions to the air permit application. So the air permit application is what is needed to operate this facility. And it also has to be registered as a solid waste management facility. So there's a registration as a solid waste management facility because we're recycling waste batteries and the air permit.
And that's a DEC permit, the solid waste?
They're both DEC permits.
Do you have to get any local zoning ordinances changed, or do you have to get a, what's it called?
Exemption or?
I'm blanking, there's a term for that. I'm blanking.
Yeah, right.
On the term.
We don't need any zoning changes or
variances
or anything like that we know. No.
So you've submitted the air
And solid waste
and both
registration.
okay.
So they're both in there, and we expect to get a notice of complete application within the next week or two. Hard to predict with DEC, but and then it will go into the ENB for the 30-day public comment period. So, and there'll be a notice in the paper here also.
Do you have any of the permit numbers handy? I know they're already...
No, they don't have numbers yet because they put the numbers on it. We don't. The DEC.
So
if you want to foil it, you could just.
Okay.
There's not that many permits.
I understand from the article I was reading that you guys bought equipment from another company that went bankrupt.
No, that was Imperium.
That was Imperium.
okay.
Imperium did that.
So you're buying all your state of the art is your equipment and your process, I guess.
So the whole all this the equipment is bespoke material, so equipment, meaning that it's been designed just for
The process.
the process. So it has to be manufactured in Korea because that's where they came up with the process and they've come up with the technology.
So you're getting it new, I would imagine, as state-of-the-art?
Right. Yeah.
Very good.
And then what sort of, let's say we go through the foil, or the 30-day notice, then what?
Well, then
So
it depends what DEC wants to do then, so they could issue the permit at that point, or?
And then you start construction.
Immediately, yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have work in the building to do,
we've
and then
done-
you have
Yeah, let me give you a
equipment coming
rundown.
in. Go ahead.
Right. So we've done about 80% of the demolition work. There was a lot of equipment in that building, and we're just clearing all that stuff out. There's just oodles of stuff. So that's been a little challenging. We kind of underestimated how much stuff was in there.
Heavy equipment, too.
Yeah.
What was in there before?
They had these big treaters and all sorts of contraptions. There's just a lot of stuff.
Presses and stuff.
Yeah. So we're emptying out all that stuff. We cannot start construction until we have a permit. So when we have a permit, we will get the equipment and stuff over here, installation. Our goal is to be operational end of the first quarter of next year.
Can you start even
That depends on.
building some of your ventilation?
No,
You really can't do
we
anything.
want to do it by the
Can't do
book and
anything.
not, we're just clearing out the building and just holding until,
So you bought, well, I guess it's not anyone's business, but you bought the contents of the building, too? Or?
what we did is, with the demolition company, we said, listen, there's all this scrap in here, we're not going to pay you for demolishing the stuff, take all the scrap. So we went to 2-3 different companies, 2 of them said, no, we want to get paid, and there's one company said, yeah, there's enough scrap in here that we can do it, so it doesn't cost us anything. So.
Now, I think I interrupted you long back when I think you were going to describe the process of the air recycling or the
air
air
emission
treatment,
control.
emission controls.
Off gas treatment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's, so it's, the batteries will go into what they call a rotary kiln. So it's like a long tube, 40-foot long tube, and they'll be heated indirectly, and as they tumble through this thing. And any of the exhaust gases that come out of that will first go through what's called an afterburner. So they'll be heated up to like 2,000 degrees to destroy any organics that might be in them. And then the exhaust gas will be cooled down with a waste heat boiler to extract the heat out, and a heat exchanger to get it down to a temperature that can go into a fabric filter bag house, so a fine bag house. And then after the bag house, what's left will go through a wet scrubber. So there's a vessel basically where the exhaust gases go through, and they're injected with pH controlled solution to treat any acid that might be left, to neutralize it and then be emitted. So all the emissions data that we use for the permit application are based on actual test results from the Korean facility. So we've got a really good basis for what's being done here and what we applied for.
And can you describe the solution for the pH solution? What is
Sodium hydroxide. So it's a slightly caustic solution.
What can be very caustic depending on the concentration?
Yeah, it's controlled. So.
Where do you ship the waste to? Landfill or Niagara Falls?
Well, there's that water in that. The only waste. Well, let me back up. The bag house will collect dust, right? So that dust will come out, and that is actually the same as the black powder. So that's a product. So that's like one stream of the product. The only other waste is the water in the scrubber has to be changed every 3 months.
So that was the 32.
That's the 2,500
2,500
gallons.
gallons we told you about earlier.
Yeah. No, we had talked to I3 about sending it there, and but we certainly can send it to another industrial waste treatment facility.
So this is
It's a small
single
line.
floor operation or multiple floors?
It's single floor.
Single floor.
Yeah, everything's on the
How many
same.
square feet in that?
That building, I think, is 30,000, but our process is not using all of that.
Okay.
There's a empty building here, which we're not going to be using. The upper levels of this building
Yeah.
are basically empty. Basically, we could just choose from certain buildings that were available, and
Everything's in.
But this is the starting, this is the initial
I don't know
facility.
if they said
There's room
anything
for
to you.
expansion.
We've had a couple major floods up here.
oh no, they didn't say anything else. Please talk.
Well, we have, this isn't,
That's my phone number.
Thank you.
Mark doesn't use the internet.
Treater tower didn't get flooded.
Well, that's higher than the rest of the,
So yeah, this is the building or the area?
That area there flooded the last flood.
There was flooding in that area. Well, there was
Well, that-
flooding in this lower area here. But not, I wouldn't say the treater tower, because that's kind of starting up the hill a little bit.
There are storage facilities right there.
That
they can take
whole
water, no
waste
problem.
treatment was underwater. It came off that hill.
And how often you get these floods?
Well, we've had two major floods. That's why-
2006,
Well, those are
2011.
500 year
Two
events.
DAEs here.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
know,
500 year
they
event.
flooded out where they were.
So we gotta add boats to our.
Well, I'd be on the second floor.
It actually was a good thing because like the trichloroethylene that IBM had spilled, it helped to flush out the ground.
You said 80, I think in the initial announcement, 80 employees, is that, how many?
Yeah, but initially it's only be 20 to 25.
20. Okay.
And it's startup, right?
Yeah, the startup, as we build and expand the business. Because initially, we're only going to be running at a pretty conservative number, just because we want to develop the systems of collection.
I
and so
said
forth.
5,000, and they're gonna grow beyond that, right?
Right.
Do you guys remember if they did testing of the VOCs in that treater tower? The trichloroethylene? They never tested that?
there's been groundwater testing around it. There's never been, I don't believe, any active remediation on this site.
Some of the other buildings they did.
Pump and treat, they just shut down.
Just, yeah, I think that was just down below it.
Yeah, they just shut them down.
Well, most of it.
Was that the last pump and treat system, Lonnie? There's still not.
The whole town. Behind me is my question.
Yeah.
I used to work at DEC, just full
Say it again.
disclosure.
Do you recall if there's
Was there
CCE,
vapor
intrusion?
Was
Did
there
they test
vapor
it?
intrusion?
They tested,
The treater.
I think that area and over here also, right?
But, you know, if they actually tested for the workers, the VOCs they might get exposed to. I know they
Oh, I
did
don't
like
know.
for building 18.
I don't know about that.
47 and some of the other ones, but I don't
Yeah.
recall
That was
if
in
they
the
did on
ground.
that or not.
I know they did the BAE building.
Right, that was that BAE did their own testing.
Right.
But the readings were pretty small.
Jim,
That's the soil.
And most of the buildings, not all of
that
them.
Tom mentioned, that's what he's talking about.
Like, a lot of them were less than 5 picometers.
Yeah, yeah.
The majority of them
All, virtually all.
per unit.
well, not building 18.
Well, I just said most of the buildings, not all of them.
That'd be just where you have your storage, it's pretty close from what I've been seeing to like the power plant. You know, it's close. And I heard rumors before if something ever happened with the power plant, it might clear about 20 miles around here, you know.
Well, water did flood these batteries.
What power plant are you talking about?
The substation right there.
I was reading where
The
lithium,
substation?
Yeah, the thing runs all the power there.
I was reading
Well,
where
you
the
know, you said power plant, like a generator.
lithium does react with water. Could it potentially explode or catch on fire if it did flood that metal building there?
One of the batteries are discharged. Lithium reacts with water when it's in the metallic state. But the lithium in the batteries are all compounds, either lithium carbonate or lithium phosphates. So reaction with water is much different than if you have a piece of
Okay,
lithium or a piece of sodium
Otherwise,
sitting
if
in
you
water.
get a car, there's an electric car, it'd be exploding if it went in the water then.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
right.
it's not a hazard.
It's not, right?
Where does the lithium go when you're doing this recycling?
it stays in that black powder that contains the cobalt, the nickel, and everything. And
That's
that's
separated out later, right?
Yes, and that's one of the elements that's valuable too.
More complex process.
Yeah.
So because that process is done somewhere else, there's a lot less exposure.
And we do know that, as we start up, we'll be doing stack testing and proving our emissions are within limits. We've also done modeling of the emissions to show DEC has a pretty aggressive air toxics program, and they have guidelines for ambient air quality for air toxics, and we've run that through the analysis.
You worked for the DEC?
Pardon?
You said you worked for the DEC?
Yeah, 25 years ago, so it's been a while.
I think it's changed.
I deal with them all
Mark's
the
been
time.
asking for ambient air tests at every one of our IBM
For the last
meetings for about
15 years.
15 years, so.
We did it once, but they didn't find much reading.
Now, the black powder, is that considered in terms of transportation? Is that considered a hazardous waste?
No,
No, not a
It's not
waste.
considered
It's
hazardous?
not a waste, first of
It's
all.
not regulated at all?
no, it's a product. So it's used to make battery salts.
Well, it's regulated in the sense that it's a product containing metal, so you will have to have some classification of it.
For DOT shipment.
For DOT shipment.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is there
Okay.
going to be a DOT placard on the trucks carrying the black powder off?
Well, it depends on what the placard says. The DOT placard is a good thing and a bad thing. If there's a placard that says a hazardous waste, you don't want that. And this is not a hazardous waste. There's going to be a DOT placard that says it has
It may not require a plaque.
MSDS and a number. It must have those things to be transported. So we will have to use an MSDS. Luckily, there's one already developed.
Well, the MSDS is one thing. I'm talking about a truck placard because there's hazardous waste laws that require
But it's
certain
not
trucks.
a waste.
It's not a waste.
It's not a
I
waste.
understand that it's not a waste. Does the truck have to be a placarded? Because we might be playing some semantic games.
Because look, it's a good question. It depends. No one in the United States transports black powder. We know it's designated as a product. What would be the DOT requirement to put in the truck or to put in the bag? I think those are things that we got to develop.
Yeah, because it's not.
Really?
Yeah.
Brand new thing. Wow.
In the United
Okay.
States, there's a lot of black powder being transported anyway. Donish knows better than I do, but my information is that there's not black powder being transported anywhere.
Wow, okay, that's very interesting to me, because I've done a lot of environmental work over the last, heavily for about the last 10 years, but longer than that. So here's what I've seen. What I've seen is, over and over again, whether it's fracking or whether it's a host of other things, is that the way to evade regulation is through innovation. If you do something for the first time and you call the regulators and say, how come you don't stop this stuff? And the regulators are going like, the thing I've been fighting is these Type 4 CNG bulk haul CNG tankers, brand new thing. They're looking in the book and they're like, Type 4, what? And they're looking through the books and it's not in the books. So the regulators are specifically empowered by the statutes. If you come up with some brand new thing that's never, I mean, that triggers, that worries me a little bit, you know what I mean? It's like if we're exploring some new toxic ground here, I
No,
would
but
have...
there are other
reason
parts of
why-
the world where these things are being
Right.
transported.
And the
So we
reason
have
why they
adopt
make
rules.
it, the reason why they make it a black powder is because you take something that could be potentially dangerous and you neutralize that danger by making this black powder.
You're telling, this is the
Yeah.
first I'm hearing of this. I don't know the word, when I think of black powder, I think of gunpowder. So I don't know what...
No, it's not good.
You're saying black powder, I know it's not gunpowder, I'm just saying that it seems like you're saying that black powder implies that it's somehow neutralized, and that's
No.
not something that I know.
I'm just saying that the whole point of this whole recycling activity is that if you're inherently going to make a waste out of a waste, then there's no point recycling anything, right? Why
Okay,
bother?
forget about the word waste, I'm concerned about toxic. Forget about whether it's waste or not, is
Well,
it toxic?
that's
the
why
question.
most of the waste is considered a waste, is because it's toxic.
Look, there are rules surrounding the word hazardous, not waste, right?
There's both, but go
No,
ahead.
but no.
Yeah,
So
hazardous.
for example, when you transport a copper concentrate from a mine in the United States. If that copper concentrate, if the container that carries that copper concentrate contains 5 pounds or more per container of lead, or X grams or more per container of arsenic, it's considered a hazardous material, not a hazardous waste.
Okay.
It's quite possible that black powder will be a hazardous material. It contains lithium, it contains phosphates probably. It'll be a hazardous material, and there's certain transportation prerequisites that will be necessary. But very good materials, very safe materials, are classified as hazardous because of those environmentals, the TCLP elements. Used to be 5, now we have like 11 of them. The TCLP elements, if those are below or above a certain limit, it has to be called a hazardous substance. But there's nothing wrong with moving hazardous substances. We do that every day.
Well, you said the word safe and hazardous in the same sentence, and I'm just not sure I agree with that. But I hear what you're saying. I appreciate the response. Thank you.
So the process itself, you're taking the battery, dismantling as much as you can physically, and then the guts of it, where it's got all the... That's what you have to crush up and give it 2,000 degrees temperature with her.
No, that's just for the off gas. I think calcine is like 600.
600
Yeah.
in the
So that's the end. That's the end right there. You don't process it any further.
No, we do. That's when after you do the roasting, you basically make it brittle and it kind of shrinks and shrivels up, right? So then it's very easy to crush and grind and do all the mechanical separations that you need to do.
And that's crushed into the powder, dried somehow, I imagine, the chemicals?
It's already dried.
It's dry already because the kiln roast is up, so it's dry. And then you can do, because what you really need to do is to get it dry and brittle so you can have all the mechanical manipulation you need to do with it, which is the magnetic separators, the eddy current separators, goes through various screens so you can separate the different metals.
So are you separating the copper and some of the other
hard
metals?
pieces of material, like little connectors or something that would head from the small batteries.
These are like screens that shake or something?
Yes. Okay. The shaking tables, screens.
But they're all under negative.
Magnet, you said there's magnet that pulled up the iron.
Right.
Go ahead. All unit operations are under negative pressure. That's why there's a gas cleaning system. Every dust goes to the baghouse where everything gets collected.
So it can't escape, the workers won't get exposed to it because of the negative pressure.
Right.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah.
What is the shipping container for the product?
It's generally put in bags or drums, 1-ton bags or drums, and shipped in a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container.
And that's going to Korea, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Have you guys had any resistance from any environmental groups? Any
you're the first.
concerns?
No, we're actually going to be reaching out to a lot of different environmental
Like
groups.
Sierra Club maybe here
Because
locally?
we actually need the help of environmental groups to get people to recycle the batteries. That's a
huge.
big struggle that we have, right, is the actual recycling of the batteries.
Could the governor help and implement some
We're actually
regulations?
started working with New York State to come up with some state collection systems. Usually what the states do is that they give these contracts to these waste management companies that they pay to get rid of them, and you don't know what the hell to do with them, right? So we want to try to push some legislation where you have to recycle these batteries. And
circuit boards. We are equally active in e-scrap, and while we're focused here for now, we're going to bring our e-scrap facility, the one we have in France, we're going to build one in the United States, because 99% of the circuit boards in the United States leave the United States and they're not processed here. Right?
Yeah, we did a documentary, it was called Terabyte, and it was more about computers, mainframes, and going over there.
so I think twice there have been bills in Congress trying to ban e-scrap leaving the United States, the export. But both times it's shot down because, well, what else do we do? There's no solution. So we're trying to come up with that solution and bring it here into the United States.
You know, my girlfriend's mom lives by the landfill, and it just keeps coming, you know?
Yeah.
And coming.
You guys all set?
I'm just a little nervous about that storage place.
You think we're too low?
Well, the building you're in, like I said, we've had 2 floods. I know that that whole building's across the street from the treater towers was underwater. They had people from Georgia coming in and they're cleaning it all out for months.
Clean what up?
Cleaning up them buildings after the flood.
That's
These down here, you're saying?
Well, it was the whole campus that they were working, but that section.
Wouldn't
this
FEMA
side
have
is
some
closed.
maps you guys could check out?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely will.
definitely
Yeah.
have that on my list,
Did
Chair.
they offer
I'm
you?
actually glad we had this meeting.
Yeah, did they offer you guys, now this is a question because I know somebody, because election year, did they offer you guys the buildings down past McKinley?
No, the only other building they showed us other than that one was, there's like a truck wash. It's like further in, like on this part of the complex, where trucks used to go in to get washed down. There's a huge building, and I'm like, we don't need that huge of a building.
That might be over here.
Yes.
I think, it's actually off your map. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it's on this side someplace,
It's
yeah.
over here.
Because we drove all the way down this way.
Mark, that's the other place where they used to bring in the stink trucks, over here. That's what he called them. It's great. It's
typical
catchy.
term.
It's catchy because, what stinks in Endicott? We worked with that, with
Well,
doing
the
videos.
thing was they didn't have a scrubber on it when they unloaded them. And the whole town, everybody was doing this for 6 months.
Not like New York City.
And then they put a scrubber on it, you know what I mean? And then every once in a while we had issues. But I just couldn't believe somebody could do that to the people. That's why your landlords and everything else, you know.
Is there anything we can do to
They
help?
never, this recycle thing's good. I'm a little nervous about the air. That's my issue.
Sure.
Because, I breathe the crap.
Yeah.
And the DEC, being a DEC guy, you guys are all self-monitoring. Yeah, I mean, not the DEC, you guys are gonna be self-monitoring.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to
The-
require us to do testing. And there's also...
That's where Markle is, right there.
So you'll see me over there.
In fact, if you look at the roof, it says IBM
It'd be
chemical.
process control too, a lot of, temperature controls on the processes to make sure we are within the ranges where we need to be.
But there's buildings, what happened is when these guys took over after IBM, they just shut them down. And the state, they're just big molded buildings there. And what I heard is if they could get somebody to come in there, the state would pay for the knockdown. And you could have they never offered you that, right?
No.
Well, I'm all for recycling, so I support what you guys are doing. If there's anything we can do, let us know. I would meet with the Sierra Club too. They're gosh, they get about 50 people, don't they?
I'm surprised Scott didn't show up. Was Scott invited?
They might have another event.
Oh, okay.
I emailed them.
Okay.
Well, you're going to have the permit notice in the paper.
Right.
Can we get another meeting like this once that's out?
Sure.
And can you inform Frank or one of us when that happens? Because we don't always see the notices when they show up in the
Sure,
paper.
we'll do that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'll give you my card.
Sometimes they put them out on the 4th of July.
And I emailed Dale just now, but I would like to get both of your names too, just spelled out, so
Sure.
Dale can probably just send it to me.
Yeah.
I was, so just to, you probably met with Jason Garner, Broome County Executive. But I would think he could, help with the recycling aspect of it. I've been contacting him a lot lately about improving just the general recycling in the area. He's interested, but there's more they can do.
I think a lot of
You have
the,
a card also.
from the government agency,
But I can get you an email. I'll send you an email, okay?
But our
Yeah.
governor's very,
they've got to be pushed. They don't, even if it's the right
Thank you.
thing, they don't do it because anytime they have to do something, it costs them money, right? But I think if you can exert enough pressure on, certain aspects, and it is the right thing to do, right? It's just that they gotta spend some money. That's, I think, a joint effort with industry, the citizens, and groups like yours that have to push these things. I mean, in Europe, because we run a plant in Europe, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, they're like light years ahead of us when it comes to recycling and treating their waste and doing things the right way.
They have a lot less space over there.
That's true.
I mean, and my relatives are arguing over, 1 foot
Yeah.
of
The hills.
space.
France is very technologically advanced in a lot of ways.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Very informative, appreciate it.
And if you need to know anything, just give me a call.
I will.
I kind of been living on the campus here.
He's the unofficial mayor of Endicott right there. He has a business across the street and he connects with all the workers, all the...